Welcome back to Desperate Living, and today we're going to have a look at the newly released Blu-ray of the classic and much underrated Giallo film Who Saw Her Die, directed by Aldo, Lado, starring George Lazenby, and a genuinely fantastic film. Before we get into the film itself, let's have a quick look at the disc. I get my trusty shrink wrap demolisher. So as you can see, this comes in a slipcase with new artwork, original poster artwork, and the traditional Shameless bright yellow cover here, and I'm assuming a double-sided sleeve. Yes, double-sided, so we have the slipcase artwork on the other side. So a nice new edition, freshly restored in 2K and complete with several extras, interviews with director Aldo Lado, producer Enzo Doria, writer Francesco Barelli. So certainly a nice package to have. If you already have the movie, this might be a decent upgrade. If you don't already have the movie, this is a must-have item. Let's talk about the film itself. Made in 1972, Who Saw Her Die is one of the most interesting Giallo films, perhaps because it's also one of the most atypical. The tale of an anguished father who's determined to track down his daughter's killer, the film doesn't stick to Giallo tradition at all for the first half, instead building a relationship between Franco Serpieri and his daughter Roberta, while also letting us know that his marriage to his wife Elizabeth is a strained one. He's living in Venice, but his wife has chosen to stay in London rather than accompany her daughter on the visit. Once Roberta has been abducted and murdered, the film explores the tragedy in a way that's unusual for the genre, where the victims tend to be generally disposably anonymous, or else red herrings that we've been encouraged to see as suspects. Either way, there's rarely any exploration as how their deaths might affect their loved ones or drive family members to obsessive behavior. Giallo films often feature outsiders carrying out an investigation while the police prove to be spectacularly useless, but these are usually witnesses who are driven by an obsessive personal need to find out what actually happened, and often to clear their own name as they become suspects in the crime. This film allows the horror of the killing to play out in painful slow motion as we first follow Franco's increasingly frantic attempts to find his missing daughter, and then the nightmare of her body being found, a genuinely unnerving moment with the corpse floating face down in the water. We're also confronted with his own guilt at his neglect, having left her playing in the street while he nipped off for a quickie with a girlfriend, something that probably wasn't as outrageous in the 1970s, where kids were routinely left to their own devices, as it might seem now. The murder leads to a reconciliation between the estranged couple, though it doesn't feel as though this will last. The film features one of cinema's bleakest sex scenes as the couple make love out of a sense of desperation for contact rather than any authentic physical desire. Only as the film progresses does it slide into more familiar Giallo territory with a string of suspicious characters who are generally only proven innocent by their own murders. Yet this is a film where many of the red herrings are somewhat complicit, even if they're not the killer that Franco is looking for. To say too much more would be to spoil the film's many twists and turns, but suffice to say that few of the characters in this film are entirely innocent. Giallo movies often rather telegraph the identity of the killer, or else spend so long throwing you off the scent that the final revelation makes little sense. But this film really does keep you guessing until the end. George Lazenby made this just 3 years after his 1969 Bond breakthrough, but he's barely recognizable. He's been unfairly mocked over the years, and even now lazy critics still like to sneer at him as being a failed actor who threw it all away. But not only is his Bond movie the best Bond movie, but he's proven himself to be an interesting star in some interesting international films like this one, Universal Soldier, Stoner, and The Man from Hong Kong. Movies where he brought individuality to the roles and became the character that he was playing. We can't say that about all Bond actors. He's good here, unfortunately and unnecessarily dubbed in the English language version, something that also happened to the likes of Christopher Lee over the years, so we really shouldn't read too much into that. But he's the antithesis of the action hero here, is so far removed from the Bond persona and look that many people fail to even recognize him. He's well supported by Anita Strindberg, who was something of a Giallo regular in the 1970s. You'll also see her in films like The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, A Lizard in Woman's Skin, The Two Faces of Fear, Puzzle, Murder Obsession, and the splendidly titled Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key, as well as other horror and sexploitation films. Like Lazenby, she seems an actor who probably deserved a little bit better career-wise. Playing the doomed child is Nicoletta Elmi, who was a regular fixture in Italian horror films in the early 1970s. Her other films include Mario Bava's Baron Blood, The Cursed Medallion or The Night Child, and Dario Argento's Deep Red. As an adult, she had a small but significant part in Lamberto Bava's Demons. She's good here, and more importantly, the relationship between her and Lazenby is very convincing. You can genuinely believe in them as father and daughter. Who Saw Her Die has a scope and ambition that's beyond many a Giallo, giving the tourist-friendly Venice a darkness and mystery that's almost claustrophobic. It's been noted that the film has a similarity to Don't Look Now, which was released a year later, and that's true. Both films deal with a father haunted by his daughter's death and a killer on the loose in Venice. But aside from the odd visual moment, the similarity is superficial. Any suggestion that Nick Roeg's film somehow ripped this off is frankly laughable. There's very little chance that he would have ever seen this film or heard of it. The film didn't even get a UK release until it appeared on Redemption Video in 1997. Much of the film's impact is down to director Aldo Lado, who brings a sense of despair and mystery to the story. A native of Venice, he was very familiar with the city's darker edge, and it shows here as he uses interesting locations, notably a disused factory, and the local weather to great effect. This is a grey, overcast movie that feels as though it has an overwhelming sense of sadness at its heart. Lado, who had previously made the equally impressive short Night of the Glass Dolls, was a very interesting director who unfortunately only occasionally worked in genre film despite clearly having an affinity for it. His 1975 film Night Train Murders was a brilliantly nasty imitation of Last House on the Left, made all the grimmer because it was so well made, and his 1979 movie The Humanoid is one of several Italian Star Wars knockoffs, in this case also channeling the island of Dr. Moreau, that is rather more fun than the film that inspired it. Who Saw Her Die is one of the best 1970s Giallo films made at a time when the genre was still working out its rules. As much as I love Gialli, I'll concede that it is a genre that very quickly developed a formula and rarely strayed from it, but this film picks elements of the Giallo and blends them with something else to create one of the more interesting and unpredictable entries. For a while, there's a good case for arguing that this isn't a Giallo at all, though the second half of the film places it firmly within the genre. Still, it seems to have been somewhat overlooked by many fans, perhaps because it doesn't follow the rules or deliver the goods as reliably as other movies. A pity that, and hopefully people will take another look at this film if they've rejected it and reassess it. I think it's well worth giving a second chance. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and let us know your thoughts on this classic film or Giallo movies in general in the comments. We'll be back soon with more popular culture coverage. See you then.